Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Covenant Chronicle. Some of you out there might recognize the name, and that's because it's the name of our long-lost Covenant Chronicle newspaper. Right here we have the summer of 2009 edition. We have many in our files. But now we've resurrected the name and brought it to you in video form. So tonight, we'll have 3 stories for you. First up, we'll talk with Pastor John as he welcomes us back to the church for our first in-person service, July 5th. He'll give us a tour and show us what it's going to be like. And then we'll visit with Dave LaBelle from the Property Committee and a message about our building. And finally, in the member spotlight, we have Ms. Gina LaBelle. We'll get to know her just a little better. So welcome to the program. We hope you enjoy. First up tonight, we check in with Pastor John and see what church is going to look like as we come back after several months away.
Hi folks, how are you? Welcome to a church that's 207 years old. Folks, we're going to walk you through what it would be like on July 5th. Welcome, come with me. Well, you're going to come through the blue door and that rampway, which is handicap accessible, of course. We're going to come in here, and the first thing you're going to notice is we have hand sanitizers, we have napkins, cloths, and then we have the masks if you need them. If you haven't brought your own designer wear, we have those available to you. Anyway, we're going to keep going. One of the things we're trying to do is to limit the available surfaces, which will help us to clean those surfaces that we do use, right? You'll notice that in the next couple walks here. Let's walk. So you're going to come through this hallway. We're going to keep the assembly hall closed. So these doors will be closed. The kitchen is closed. Now, we're going to limit the access to the sanctuary 2 ways. But let me first explain for all of you ladies, the ladies' lounge is open. Let's take a quick walk so you can see what that's going to look like. Okay? Okay, you're going to see a block off here. This is intended, again, to lower the number of surfaces that we have to go back and clean. So this is going to literally lead you to the ladies' lounge, okay? And that will be your restroom stop. All right, just so you are aware of that, we will not be accessing the sanctuary from the front doors or the stairwells up, okay? Let's go. I'm going to go back this way again. Assembly hall closed off. Now, there are 2 ways, I said, to get up to the sanctuary. The first of these is going to be, of course, the stairwell that is often used as you come through that entrance, but we're going to, again, close that entrance. We're going to ask you to come through the handicap accessible entrance, the blue door, but once you get in, you can go up the staircase, right, that goes up to the sanctuary, or you can go on the elevator. Let's do that. Okay, we'll step in here. I'll see you upstairs. Hi there. Hi there. Okay, folks, when you come in, you'll see signage pretty much throughout. Notice Brian has been busy getting all of the signage ready. This is a document that shows a diagram of the sanctuary. And notice we've got yellow and green, yellow, green like this. We're asking individuals to sit on either end and couples, family groups, to be sitting in the green spaces. That gives us the maximum amount of distance. You'll see that more clearly when we go inside. But notice the signage is there to help you. We're going to ask that you place your offering in the plate right here. We will have a doxology time in the service, but we're not passing the plates. We're going to have you do that right here at this table, okay? Then when we have communion on July 5th, we're going to have the elements here, but they will be prepared with a sealed cup for each person and a baggie with the communion bread, and you'll pick up one of each as you come through, okay? Even though I will be communing from the table up in the sanctuary, nevertheless, you'll take those with you to your seat. We're coming into the sanctuary, and you see that the signage is laid out. We're going to keep these first two rows closed. And the reason for that, obviously, is we have folks up here. They will be leading worship. Me as the pastor, the liturgist, perhaps a chorister, that there's enough buffer there for the concerns of aerosol. Now, let's go to the back, and then we'll come forward. How about that? All right. Nice to be in this space, isn't it? Such a wonderful, wonderful space. Notice these doors will be closed in the back, and again, because we're not accessing the sanctuary this way. But when you come in, you will see, you can see very graphically depicted here, the yellow and green squares that we have on the diagrams that you all have received and that are posted then. So we're asking you, and quite frankly, folks, we know where a lot of you are used to sitting. And we tried to keep that in mind as we put these quote-unquote seat assignments together. They're by no means locked in stone, but we wanted to be as close to what you folks are used to as possible. So when you come through, notice that we have taped off sections. You see that this one is taped off in such a way that we're encouraging then an individual here and an individual at the far end, right? But if we move to the next row, you'll see that the middle is open, and we're encouraging, of course, a couple from the same household or a family from the same household to be sitting in that space. Look, folks, we will be working with this as we go along. We had to start somewhere. And so we are attempting to do our level best to be as responsive to the best practices that we know in terms of this pandemic. So anyway, you'll come through and you'll find the spaces that are what you're used to. Oh, there's somebody's pillow, so maybe you know who you are, and there you go. But nevertheless, this is how we'll do that. We have understood from Dr. Reefer that we can keep our books use them partly because the virus simply does not stay on as long as in between the uses of them, so we're not as concerned about that. But we do want to limit the spaces otherwise. Come through. Anybody, of course, with a handicap accessibility and needs to move a wheelchair in here, we've always kept this space open. Why is it T? I'll tell you why. I asked the same question of Brian, and the rows are labeled A through the back, then up to the top, first row of the balcony, and it goes all the way back. So S is way back there at the top of the balcony. So the next possibility, then, this is the next row for the handicap accessible wheelchairs, and this is rows T, T9, and T6. There's a method to our madness. As we conclude this brief tour, we are excited about having you here on July 5th. We're going to be celebrating the Lord's Supper. And we gather in this historic space because we are a historic congregation. We've had a lot of wonderful ministry and mission here our entire 207 years. As I look out and see this beautiful sanctuary space and these lovely windows and these grand pews, really understand there's only 3 essential pieces of furniture in a Presbyterian church. The first of these, of course, is the font. It's a reminder of our baptism. That wonderful expression, remember your baptism and be glad. That's furniture piece number 1. Furniture piece number 2 is up here, of course, and it is the table. Now, every once in a while, I hear the word altar in a Presbyterian church mentioned. No, this isn't an altar. It is the Lord's table, and it's set for us, and it'll be set for us on July 5th, and we're so glad we can do that. Baptism and the Lord's Supper, that's the sacrament part. Furniture piece 1, furniture piece 2. Here's furniture piece 3. It's like a prow of a ship. It is the pulpit. Because my responsibility to you all is as minister of the word and sacrament, right? There's your 3 pieces of furniture. We're excited to be able to bring that to you and to have you join us in our worship of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ here at Covenant Presbyterian Church on July 5th. And so I need to get to work on that. So bless you and keep you.
Thank you, John, for that tour. Now we check in with Dave LaBelle from the Property Committee. We have a very old facility. Right now where I'm sitting, it was built in 1862. Just ahead of me, that part of the building was 1874, and next door, our other building is 1940. It takes quite a bit to keep this place going. Let's hear what Dave has to say.
Good afternoon to my Covenant family. I hope everybody is well and looking forward to July 5th when we can all be back together in our church home. But like any home, it requires maintenance. That's what brings me to today's message, which I call Minute for Maintenance. As everyone I'm sure by now is aware of the crumbling wall in the assembly room and the spot in our sanctuary that is in need of repair. Well, just to let you know that during this time of shutdown, your building committee has been working hard. We have been working to get contractors in to view the problem and what's the best way to fix it. After speaking with a number of them, they all conclude that the exterior wall is the issue. The exterior wall needs to be repointed and repainted. Once this is done, the interior walls can then be repaired. So we have selected a contractor for the work, and the cost to Covenant is $5,200 to complete the scope of the work. We have applied for a grant through the presbytery in the amount of $2,000, leaving us with a balance of $3,200. In order to not tax our maintenance budget, I am asking if the members of the congregation, should they feel called, to make a donation to help offset the difference in cost. If so, you can make a check out to the church, and please indicate that it is for the wall project. Also, please remember that you can also work through our new electronic modes of payment as well. Again, just be sure to indicate that it is for the wall project. Remember, this is our church home, and just like our own homes, requires care. So thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing everybody very soon, and God bless you all.
Folks, we're here now with Ms. Gina LaBelle, a member of Covenant Church. Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're always glad to have you here. Tell you what, you were not in Butler for a long time. Where were you at?
No, I was out in the east coast of the country. I was out in New Jersey for about 24 years, so I had a hiatus from Western Pennsylvania and lived just outside of the Trenton-Princeton area.
All right. How did you get back here, and how did you come to Covenant?
Okay, well, that was kind of interesting because my husband was still going back and forth to New Jersey for his job, and I wanted to be close to my family, which is in New Wilmington, and so we sort of drew a circle around New Wilmington because my husband said can't be any closer than half an hour to 45 minutes away. So, because he was going to the East Coast, we drew the eastern part of the circle and ended up in Butler. So our son needed a new environment for his academics, and he found Votech to be very helpful for him.
It's wonderful, wonderful. So you get to Butler and you're looking for a church. How did Covenant come into your radar?
Interesting. We tried a lot of churches because the church that we left in New Jersey was very near and dear to our heart. It was a family. It was very hard to leave. And so we were looking for something along that line when we came back into the area here. So we started visiting churches, and one of the first churches we visited was Covenant. And we loved it here, and people were so welcoming and so eager to have us here. But we had a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, so we were thinking we needed someplace that had a better youth program, well, a youth program. And so we did check out a couple other churches, and then our children were sort of at the age where they really didn't want to go to church anymore, so we visited other churches for a while and then said, we really liked Covenant, and if we're not doing it for our children, we're going to do it for ourselves. And so that's how we ended up here.
Great. Well, obviously everyone's very glad to have you here. Let's see. If someone was thinking about coming to Covenant, what might you tell them about the church?
I would say that you will be welcomed immediately. People here really enclose people like their family. They are very hospitable and very good cooks, I might add. We are a very non-judgmental congregation, and that's one of the things that appealed most to us. We have a very strong sense of diversity in our greater population that we'd like to see echoed here even more at our church. We're a very welcoming place. And so for other people, that's what we would hope that we could get the point across. Musically, there is so much talent here, and it's a big part of our worship experience.
And I should know that.
You should know that, yes. And Brian is a big part of that worship experience by bringing in some great music. So.
Yes, just happens to be my department, folks. All right. Now here at Covenant, you actually do more than just show up on Sunday. And one of those things is working with the mission committee. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Sure. For a long time at my old church, I worked on the mission committee, and I did serve on a presbytery committee for mission when I was there in the New Brunswick Presbytery. So it's something that I feel very strongly about. Mission is what the church is about. And to me, that a church without a strong mission is not really a church, it's just a social group. So that was something that I found was very important in my own life, and I wanted it to be part of my church experience as well. So I work with another woman, Audrey, and we loved what we do. We try to mix it up so that we have something that's a local mission, something that's in the greater United States or in the world. So that's our goal, and I think we achieve it pretty well with the resources that we have.
All right, excellent. Where do you see the mission of the church headed as we go into the future?
Well, I'd like to say that I have lots of great optimism for the way the church is going all the way around. I think we are in a place in history where traditional churches are really struggling. I think that it's a problem because culturally we aren't getting a lot of support from the greater populace. If you are a Christian, there's almost a derision out there that you are doing something that's kind of old-fashioned and fuddy-duddy and really doesn't have a lot of pertinence to this day and age, which obviously my being here negates that in my life. God is everything to me, and the church is where I come to increase my faith.
It's almost as if we took a step back to the days where everybody kind of felt like they had to go to church on Sunday. They'd be reminded of all those important life lessons and maybe make the world a little better place.
I worry because even within my own family, it's more practicing spirituality as opposed to a religious faith where you go to church every week and have a faith community. But to me, it's hard to practice a faith outside of a faith community, because that's where we go to proof our own religious beliefs. It's where we come to publicly display our faith, and that to me is a really important element of your religion.
And as the good book says, that we are in communion with one another. So let's talk a little bit about this. Outside of the church, you've been known to dabble in real estate.
Dabble's a very good word, because sometimes it's really dabbling and sometimes it's being deluged with real estate. I have been selling real estate for, I don't keep count, but I think it's something like 13 or 14 years now here in the Butler area. It was a bit of a challenge for me because I didn't know people here. Having grown up in New Wilmington, I didn't have a basis for a lot of associates here. So it was a little bit more of a challenge to grow my business, but it was also a great way to get to know people here. And I really enjoy the business when it's going well, and really dislike it when there are lots of bumps along the way. So that's like any job.
Speaking of the bumps, then, what's the greatest challenge when you're trying to sell a house or land?
Well, one thing that I hadn't really considered when I was approaching the real estate business was how much of a psychologist that you have to be. Selling houses or writing offers or negotiating offers is such a small piece of what I do. I've found myself a grief counselor, a marriage counselor, an advisor for childhood issues. I find that that's a big part of what I'm doing. And that's one way I can kind of use my faith in my business, because I have a lot of compassion for what people are going through. I try to approach them from where they are. Are you recently divorced? Did you just lose a spouse? Are your children struggling in school? And those are things that kind of come up incidentally, but oftentimes too, you have to understand the dynamics to understand what's the best place and dwelling for them to be in.
All right, excellent. So faith does help in the business. Okay, so if you were going to give the world some words of wisdom, it doesn't have to be a whole paper, but a sentence or two, what do you want to tell the world today?
Well, it's how I distill my religion, my faith. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And the reason why that's the golden rule is because if more people practiced it, and more people thought about what they were doing before they did it and how it's coming across to other people, the world might be a little bit different right now. So, and also realizing that we as human beings all have flaws, and we all have things that we do sinfully every day, and that because of that, we have to have the confidence that other people are in the same place that we are, and we all need each other because of that.
Amen to that. All right. Now here is the question everyone has to answer before I let them off the hook.
Okay.
Gimme, and she does not know this in advance.
No, I didn't know this in advance. So if I'm fumbling, that's why.
Give me 3 words that best describe you.
Okay. Compassionate. Tolerant. And considerate.
And I would vouch for those three things. Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to wish you a happy birthday. This program airs on your birthday.
Hey. Okay.
And you are now how many years old? We won't answer that one. And if you guess correctly, you will win a free mini flag, which we'll also be giving out on July 5th when we return to service. Yeah, the first 24 people through the door get a miniature U.S. flag. It's a good thing that we're doing that on Independence Day weekend.
Right. And the 100th person through the door gets a full-size flag then, is that correct?
Sure. We'll see if they'll write us a check for that one. Hey, Gina LaBelle, it's been some great catching up with you. And if you see her around town, stop and say hi. She doesn't usually bite. Yes, help her out. Make a few bucks here so she could contribute to our fellowship hour.
That's a good idea. Okay. Thank you, Brian.
All right, folks. We'll be back after this. We hope you enjoyed tonight's edition of the Covenant Chronicle. We'll be coming to you every month with new stories, new adventures, new people. Have a pleasant evening and a great weekend. We'll see you next time.